I mean, the famous ones, Imam al-Muhasibi is probably the earliest formulator. And then Imam al-Junayd is, in a sense, if Imam al-Muhasibi is the Abu Hanifa of that science, Imam Shafi'i Imam al-Junayd is like the Shafi'i. He gives it a schema, and he develops the doctrine of fana and baqa, which are very important. And I want to say something about Shibli and Abu Talib al-Makki, who wrote Qut al-Qulub, very early, respected by all the ulama. And Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, quotes extensively from Abu Talib al-Makki. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah does. Imam Junayd was an imam by consensus. He's mujma' ala imamatihi. And anybody that says he wasn't an imam is just ignoring what the ummah agreed on, the Sunni tradition. I mean, there's no doubt about Imam al-Junayd. There are Sufis that are considered wayward and off the path and deviant. I mean, there are. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't just say all tasawwuf is deviant, because it's not true, and it's not the normative practice of the tradition. Shaykhs and Tariqa is another thing, and people conflate the Tariqa and Shuyukh and Pirs and Bay'ah. They conflate that with this tasawwuf, and that is a false, you cannot put them together. Tasawwuf is a science. It has its teachers, and traditionally many of those teachers they also created a certain type of systematization, and in it they had this idea of suhbah. The Turks called it suhbat, where you sat and spent time, and some had a formalized practice of bay'ah, where you took bay'ah, but it's not a legally binding bay'ah like the khilaf al-kubra or something like that, and it was something that people could get out of and things like that. So that does exist in the tradition. There is an idea, and many of our great scholars did have tariqah, and many of them were actually shuyukh of tariqah. But there's been a lot of abuse of tariqah as well. And a lot of people have, because they've seen a lot of wrongs done in the name of Sufism, they end up attacking tasawwuf. And it's not. It is a science. And it's considered one of the things about true science, according to modern philosophers of science like Karl Popper, is that science is falsifiable. In other words, if you can't falsify it, it's not valid. So if you have water and you want to prove whether or not the freezing point is indeed 32 degrees Fahrenheit, well, what you do is you create several experiments where you freeze it and determine, because you have to allow for maybe the thermometer didn't work and other things. You don't just do it once. You do it again and again. And if it keeps coming up 32 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when it freezes, then you can falsify it. Because if I could prove that it freezes at 34 or 28, I falsified the claim that it freezes at 32. If I can't do that, then it's considered valid science. Now, there's obviously anomalous things that can come in later on, and that happens. Like quantum mechanics throws a spanner in Newtonian physics, but that's another problem. Now, in tasawwuf, there is this exact same idea. It is falsifiable. That there are states and stations that happen to people in suluk that are identical states and stations. And they've been described, and people that have been through them know whether or not it's a valid experience or whether or not it's not. And Imam al-Muhasibi divided it into Rabbani, Malakani, Nafsani, and Shaitani. That those are the different types of impulses that occur to the soul. Lordly, angelic, selfish, and satanic. And he gave very specific signs for each one of those, so that you could know if a thought came to you, you could know if it came from Allah, if it came from an angel, if it came from the selfish nature, or if it came from the devil, based on this. And his point was it could be replicated in all human beings, and therefore it had a validity because you could falsify it.